Hey everyone, so I'm restocking and reorganizing everything today. After a week of baking, everything kind of gets where it shouldn't be. So I'm starting by putting my jars back where they go. You can see this cabinet is quite a mess. This cabinet only houses my empty jars. And I try to have them kind of by size, but then you run out of space. So I have my canner down here in the bottom, and that's the steam canner that you see me use if you go back and watch some videos. And then above that, I have my canning kit. So that has a funnel, a magnet, those sorts of things. These things in front here, these are various tops that you can use in place of the metal two-part lids. These are basically for if I take a lid off and I'm going to have something in the refrigerator like ketchup or something like that. That works really well. These over here, these wooden ones are more for dry storage, so flour, sugar, that sort of thing. Then I also have this sealer that I got last year. And this is a vacuum sealer for your jars, and it's for wide mouth or small mouth, depending on which one you use. You charge it with a USB charger, and it allows you to seal these jars that you may have something like flour in, and to keep the moisture out and bugs, whatever, just to make it last longer. So that's really great. I use that quite a bit. Back here, you'll see I have a whole bunch of rings and a random funnel, because they're always everywhere. Let me see if I can show you it a little bit better. So I have kind of a system here. I have all the regular mouths, just their rings in that basket, and then I have their lids right here. And then over here, I have the wide mouths and their lids. And then I also have more of the plastic ones mixed in. And so I'm just going to put these jars back down here that are clean. I'm not sure exactly where that one's gonna go. And then these are some clean. My roommate always does the dishes, so I have the job of putting everything away. All right, so that's that cabinet. Good to go. And I will show you this cabinet that I have here. So this was let's see if I can back up far enough. This was a Facebook Marketplace find, actually, many years ago now. I think I paid $150 for it. It's 6 pieces, so these top 3 and then these bottom 3 are all separate pieces. This has all of what I just showed you, my empty canning and my canning supplies. This one has my home brewed wine situation in there. And then this one on the end has all of the food that I canned so far. So this is more of your actual savory things. So green beans, potatoes, that sort of stuff. And then up higher, I have jams and jellies and applesauce. Same on this side. With some quick grab veggies there. Cookbooks on the bottom, but this is really great. I need to refinish it. It needs a paint job for sure, but it has been wonderful. It is solid wood, no pressed board with glue or anything like that. So it has been really, really nice and really made this dining room, it completed this dining room for sure. So, to get our dry goods restocked, I'm going to grab the jars that I need off of the cabinet. And then what I like to do is put the jar with whichever thing it is so I don't get them mixed up. So, self-rising flour. Here's my one for rice. Powdered sugar. Regular sugar goes over on the other side, so move that over here. And then we have our pecans and walnuts. Alright, so I have my trusty canning funnel. And these larger ones are the half-gallon jars. And they are perfect for your dry goods. I keep the little cup that originally came with the rice. I don't even know how long ago. And get this moved over. Having everything in these jars is so much easier to see what you have, what you need. It makes it a lot easier to keep your pantry stocked, especially when you live far away from the store like we do. So we shop sometimes once a week, most of the time every 2 weeks. Alright, so that's the rice. Sometimes the cup will fit back in, sometimes it won't. I went a little too far this time. So put the cup on top, put that back up here where it goes. Okay, and then do have a little bit of extra left, and what I do with the extra is put it behind the jars. I have a little bit of storage space that allows it to hang out back there until I need it. Okay, then we'll do the self-rising flour. I prefer to use White Lily self-rising flour. It seems to be a different texture flour. And just, I get better results when I use it. So that's just what I stick with. Oops, sorry. And then a lot of times you wear some of the flour while you're doing this. Let's see if I can. Oop. I don't know that all of that's going to fit down in there. We'll give it a try. Oh yeah. Perfect. I think there was a little bit left. All right. Now, if this was, if it was the middle of the summer, I probably would go ahead and put that vacuum sealer on here and seal this down because I don't use it as much in the summertime. But it's winter and I know I'm going to be using it, so it's fine. Do some powdered sugar. Now, if you bake or cook for someone who has food allergies, you would be very, very careful doing any of this because I'm following flour with my sugar, and if I were cooking for someone with celiacs or a gluten issue, I couldn't do that. I would introduce contaminants. So what I do is if I am baking or cooking for someone with a food allergy, I typically buy fresh ingredients for that person, for that recipe, that I know have not been contaminated with anything. And I make sure that everything is perfectly clean, that I don't mix any sort of ingredients that could cause a problem. Because you definitely don't want to make anyone sick. But this is for me, for my house, and my people, and I know people's allergies and issues, so I don't have any trouble with that. Put the sugar back now. And I had a little tiny bit of powdered sugar left, so that's going to go behind it as well. Some pecans. I buy just the pecan halves, and that's simply because in my area, they are cheaper, and I can chop them to whatever size I want when I want them, so that's not a big deal. Same thing with nuts, especially, is that if anyone has a nut allergy, be very, very careful about mixing things. Pecans done. And walnuts. So if you go in your grocery store over to the bulk section, which a lot of time is near the produce section, there typically will be nuts and dried fruits in more of a wholesale container like this. And it's always a good idea to check that section as well as your baking section, because sometimes they're cheaper. So in this instant, the walnuts were cheaper in the wholesale section, but the pecans were cheaper in the baking section. So that's a good tip just to look out for. So that's all of my dry goods restocked. And now we'll head to the next thing. I realized I didn't show you around in this cabinet. So this is just a regular kitchen cabinet. It should have doors on it like this. I took them off because it was too hard to deal with jars coming in and out of that cabinet door. So I took them off and I put all my storage jars here. So the bottom, that's a hot mess, is our like hot chocolate station, because we have a Keurig over here. So this is our hot chocolate station, tea station, AG1 station, vitamins, all that sort of stuff, and random breadcrumbs. But then up here I have dried beans, dried nuts, brown sugar, powdered sugar, rice, pastas. Up top I have bread flour, masa, don't remember what that one is. That one's cake flour, bread flour, and self-rising flour. And then any like partial bags I have behind them. So that's how that goes. And then over here in the spice cabinet, down the bottom, I have what I really love, these little spice racks. And I don't remember where I got them, but they're metal. And then inside of them, I have everything in these labeled glass jars. So this side is A through M, and this is the rest of the alphabet on this side. And then up top is like your little things that just don't fit. So like cream of tartar, allspice, those sorts of things, some random special spices up top. Then over here, I just have the larger ones that don't fit. Up here is more of your baking stuff, so baking powder, baking soda, molasses, corn syrup, vanilla, and then all of my different oils, so olive oil, peanut oil, the different oils you may need for different things. And then up top is just things to restock the stuff down below. So that's just kind of surplus. We have a lot of Amish and Mennonite in the area, so I can get spices in large wholesale containers. So because I can, that's how I buy it, and then I just bring them down and restock these when I need to. So one of the next things I do is I like to disinfect my wooden chopping board so that I can process my veggies that I got from the grocery store. I like to go ahead and chop them all up and put them in the freezer, the things that can be frozen. So today I have carrots, celery, onions, and some cabbage. And what I do is I take this is a botanical food grade disinfectant. So it's mainly citric acid and thyme oil, but it's a great disinfectant for your surfaces. It's also concentrated, so I mix it in this glass bottle, and then I saturate my wooden chopping board. and I let it sit for 1 minute, and then I will come back and wipe it down and then get to chopping. Okay, so I'll start with getting the carrots chopped, and what I like to do is kind of decide what size a single bite carrot would be, so one that you don't need to cut in half, and that's usually about good for me. Also, I don't peel my carrots. I buy organic carrots so that I can keep the skin, and that's just simply because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to peel them. So I try and get all the same size together to start with, because that'll make it easier when I chop everything. And these are just going to go straight in the freezer. I'm not doing any blanching or anything special to them. I haven't noticed a difference, so as all of these will be used in cooking recipes, so they won't be eaten raw. If you like raw carrots, you probably would have to do something different. So because I cut them like that and made them all similar size, I then can just put them in a bunch like this and cut them quickly, instead of cutting each individual carrot. Alright, and then I have a 1/2 gallon freezer bag. And I'm just going to fill up the bag. Like so. And I'm just going to keep chopping and keep filling up the bag. Okay, so here's my carrots, all done, ready to go in the freezer. And what I did is, to get the air out, I cinched this all the way up, and then put this is just a straw, put the straw in here, and closed this all the way up to as close as I could get all the way around it. Then I sucked the air out, pull the straw out really quick, and finish closing it up. So it'll have very little, if any, freezer burn as the months go on. So now onto my celery. I sometimes will keep the leaves mixed in, and sometimes not. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day and what the leaves look like. These look really good, so I probably will keep them. Alright, so that's how I cut my lettuce, my celery, and then I just put it in the bag, same as the carrots. I'll keep chopping, and then I'll seal this all up and get it in the freezer. Alright, so there's my celery done. And another thing you can do if you want to get the air out of the bags is you can take, if it's something that's hard like this, that's not going to squish or be damaged by you doing it, you can take whatever you have and kind of shake it down to the bottom of the bag, and then roll it super tight while this is open. Roll it and let all the air come out, and then cinch it up. And that will get most of your air out that way. So these will now go in the freezer. And I'm going to start on my onions. So these are all going to be diced onions because that's what I use the most. I'm going to spin it like this. Alright, and I'll keep chopping. Okay, so here's my onions, and I have them in a quart bag. And what I'm going to do is I'll show you how I roll them. So I have most of this done, and I'm going to leave just about an inch, inch and a half. And then what I'm going to do is roll the ingredients so they're nice and tight, and then I'm going to do that. And then you can see how tight they are. They're not moving around in the bag. And so I've gotten rid of most of the air by doing that. And just make sure you're nice and tight so your freezer doesn't smell like onions. And there's our onions. So next I'm going to do my cabbage. And I'm trying to decide. This will also not be for fresh eating. This will be for things like egg rolls or stir fries, that sort of stuff. Soup even. So I'm just cutting around the core that's at the bottom, because nobody likes that. And then what I'm gonna do is give this a good chop. I slice really thin. I'm not going to blanch this. I did wash it really well, but I'm simply going to slice it and put it in my bag. So I guess the next thing to show you is my baking shelf. And it's got a little bit of everything. So on this, inside this glass door, I have all sorts of things. So stuff for making creme brulee, my blowtorch back there. This is to make whipped cream. This is just an antique cookie jar I got for Christmas. There's a Kranza cake pan back there, various pans, tart pans, cake boxes, pie weights, a little cake stand, a sifter, some reusable silicone muffin tins, muffin liners, and then this is kind of a catch-all. So I have my baby rolling pin, my offset spatulas, my other spatulas, candy thermometers, that kind of stuff. Down here, my formal cake pans, and then I have cake plates, sorry. Then I have a cake mover in the back. These are some bundt pans, and some various different pans, some specialty pans like donut pans and Madeleine pans, that sort of stuff. And then over here, this is all of my piping needs. So these are all my piping bags, various different kinds. The box with my piping tips hangs out back here. That's a custom cutting board that my uncle made me for Christmas one year. My meringue powder, Christmas baking cups, they're only here during Christmas, then they'll go in the Christmas box and they'll go away. Melting chocolates of various kinds. Specialty sugar, this will be for my, what are they called? Fondant fancies that I'll be making. No, petit fours that I'll be making soon, so keep an eye out for that video. My specialty sugars also live right here. And then toothpicks for testing doneness. Then this is the sprinkle cabinet. So everything's on these little turntables, and I have all kinds of sprinkles. I try to have them by season. Sometimes they stay like that, sometimes they aren't. Then I have cutters, pastry cutters, some extra sprinkles, brackets. They're supposed to be attached to the wall behind this, but they aren't yet. And then this is just kind of a hodgepodge of things. I have various melting chocolates here, and I like to keep their instructions on top so I know exactly how to melt them. My different dyes here, some almond paste, cupcake liners. These are silicone fudge molds. And then my huge rolling pin kind of lives in there. And then to the drawers, this top one has my silicone mats and some of my cooling racks. This one is my cake stand, the one that spins, and then a bunch of cake pans underneath, a bunch of molds for different things. These are my portable cookie boxes, which actually are really neat. And that is the handle that goes on top, but it won't store with it. So you take this end off. Hold on. See if I can do it. Let me put you down for a second. So you take the end off, and then you have these little drawers that can go inside, and you can put your cookies on them, and you can slide them out and put your cookies on them and slide them back in, and you can stack a whole bunch of cookies inside here and transport them without messing them up. These I use all the time, and they are absolutely wonderful. So that's that cabinet. And then this section has my extra mixing bowl for my KitchenAid and all of the extra parts. And I have a whisk I need to add to the collection. And then I also need to add my other mixing bowl, which, let's see if I can do while holding you. There we go. So those live there. And then this is all of my cookie cutters. And they are in here by size. So the smallest ones are up top, other than the random bunny. And the large ones are down at the bottom. And it's all sorts of seasons mixed together. And now I have to put all of these back in there. So I'll get those put away, and then that will be organized. But this is how I keep all my baking stuff where I can find it and get to it. And it works really well for me. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas.